One. And we are recording Mr. Bazzel Baz, episode 2. But you were just saying out in Colorado, they just passed a bill that it's no longer you no longer have to be a citizen to operate a business.
Yeah, the city of Denver at least is not even required to check citizenship or immigration authorization, whatever it may be, in order for you to come here and own a business. So, there's one, it's treasonous. Number two, it's a security issue. We don't know who's buying up what in Denver, so let's just invite more Chinese in. Let's invite more cartel in. Let's not do a background investigation. The minimum is that you're a U.S. citizen, which means you come under U.S. scrutiny, by law enforcement. What's the next rule going to be? Oh, wait, you're not a U.S. citizen, so U.S. laws don't really apply to you.
That's coming.
Yeah, that's coming. So, and in addition to that, now Governor Polis here in Colorado is offering free medical and free, everything that the taxpayers can't even get. So it's the problem we have is not just with the stupidity of politicians and liberals and leftists and socialists. The problem we have is there's no accountability. So we talk all day long about all the problems we're having. The question is, what's the solution to accountability? How do we hold these people accountable? The DOJ is pretty much infiltrated with Biden's people. There's a lot of judiciary slots that are filled with the same type of people. And as you and I know, that this entire Marxist push, and let me just say this while I'm at it, for all you younger generations and all you Yahoo liberals out there that don't believe that communism and socialism still exists and that it's attacking the United States, you're fools, you're idiots, and you're part of the problem. And as far as I'm concerned, if you aren't looking at it and you laugh at it and you think it's not a problem, you are just as much of my enemy as the communists and the socialists are. And I don't know of too many veterans that don't think that same way. We spent our entire careers almost fighting the Cold War to prevent this stuff from happening in our own country. And now it's slid into our own noses. They seeded HR departments from big corporations and stuff with the type of people that believe in socialism, that believe in communism. And so as they do their professional development programs, they drop the same seeds in. So slowly, the minds of all the people that are working in big business or whatever it is, like Google and whatever, they start thinking the same way. And we've kind of disguised it as liberalism. It's not liberalism. Wake up, it's not liberalism. It's communism, it's Marxism, it's socialism, the very things that have not worked across the globe, historically speaking, since it got invented and everything. And talk to those people that lived under those systems, and you'll realize it's not a good place to be.
23 million dead under Stalin and 78 million dead under Mao Zedong. There's 101 right there.
Exactly.
That caps World War II. World War II on the high end, including civilian casualties, is estimated to be 85. I think most historians think it's around 65 or 70.
Yeah.
101 cleared by communism in the last century.
And I think, Tommy, what we're going to see, and probably when I say this, some of the viewers are going to go, oh my gosh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Look, I'm a CIA officer. I don't have the luxury of running conspiracies. I just collect facts. That's it, the facts. And everybody else makes policy off them. So let me give you the facts. The facts are, since we had this whole hodgepodge COVID pandemic, which was now we're realizing, and there's a lot of investigations, there's a lot
completely
of
engineered.
It was completely engineered to do exactly what communists and Marxists do, to throw people into a position of fear so that we, the government, we are the only ones that can save you. When the government starts mandating things, quote unquote, for your better good, you better be aware. You better be aware. And that's exactly what's happened here. So this administration right now probably leans closer to a communist, socialist administration on the slow drive, as I observed during my whole years in the Cold War. Absolutely. And if you take things like now, what is it that just came up this week, probably before this week, that someone in Congress is trying to, now I don't know if it's a bill or whatever, but you'll know what it is, actually put the military under Biden's control.
Yeah, and
that is a dictatorship.
Yeah,
that is the beginning of a dictatorship right there.
Removing was it Schiff? Removing
it was Schiff. It was Adam Schiff.
Remove oversight or accountability from certain aspects of the Praetorian Guard.
Exactly.
We just we just need the SS and the SA to protect you from those Jews. Like, it's for you. We're doing it for you.
Yeah.
We got you.
Exactly. And like, what part of this are people not getting? So we come full circle to the question that I asked in the very beginning. What are we the people, not we the government, what are we the people going to do about accountability? I think we talked about this last time, and I said that as I look at what our forefathers wrote, Jefferson, Washington, all of our great fathers that helped found this country, I try to take everything they say and put it in a nutshell and kind of say, what is it they were actually saying? And I think that what they were actually saying, my interpretation of what they were saying at that time, was that when tyranny becomes the law, rebellion becomes your duty. And that's what we saw in America. And the question is, are we so comfortable now in our country that we don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and reclaim what we, the people, were promised, have always lived by, have fought for, had died for, whatever it may be? Now, I know a lot of people will listen to this and go, well, that sounds like you're advocating violence. I'm not advocating violence, and I don't think our forefathers were necessarily advocating violence either. But I will tell you, and I'll tell everybody that's listening, if it keeps pushing the way it's pushing, you will see violence like you have never seen in this country before. Because I don't care what three-letter agency it is out there, they cannot outnumber the will of the people here. And you can call people domestic terrorists, you can call them whatever you want to call them, but they are no different than what were the people that founded this country. That got us the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. And so in my experience in third world countries and other countries, and this is just from my experience, I've seen it happen everywhere else. And I can say that it has the potential to happen here. We don't like to see that because it's destructive. But as a former CIA officer involved in and seeing many, many governments fall, the arrogance of this administration and globalists and socialists has blinded them to the fact that they are actually outnumbered. And the people of this country, the real patriots, are extremely patient. Most conservatives are really kind-hearted people. They're not demanding anything except for, guess what was provided to us by the people that came before us, which is our freedom. And I think right now, this administration and globalists are treading dangerously on patriots that will not give up to the bloody end, to be honest with you. So we're at some very interesting times. These discussions are not just had by you and I. These discussions are had by people all across the country. I constantly hear it, whether it's table talk or discussions or forums or whatever it may be. And I think that it's kind of like we were talking about the gun issue. Look, there's like, how many millions of Americans own guns? Was it 50 million?
I think the number of guns is at 500 million. I don't know.
So 500 million. So if we were the problem, people that own guns.
Oh yeah.
You would know it. You would know it. You would absolutely know it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't think we're the problem. So anyway. But we're in some interesting times, and we're actually living in times, as I go back and I study history, remarkably, we're living in times that were ranked right up there with the 1700s and the founding of the country. It's a repeat. It's like history repeats itself of the tyranny that we saw from the British. You know, it's just disguised a little bit better, a little sophisticated because of technology and stuff. But make no doubt about it, it is kind of very similar. And we saw the waters tested over this whole pandemic thing.
It's beautifully disguised. You have to respect it. It's much like a virus or like an animal or whatever, just creature evolving over billions of years. It's come back in a much more finely tuned manner, right? They figured out that you can't do Tiananmen Square, people fight back. You can't do Warsaw, people fight back. You got to do this. Come in, just we got to remove this guy because of hate speech, and this one is for this isn't love, and you can't say groomer, and this virus is killing grandma. It's very, it's a multi-tentacled demon that, just to step back objectively, is a beautifully lethal weapon.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. And then, so I always try to look at things like, obviously you're in the CIA or was in the CIA, but I always think like, whenever I'm thinking a lot about conspiracies, and then I go, well, I'm 31 and I have X amount of knowledge, which is from audiobooks. I'm not getting private briefings or classified briefings. When I come to a conclusion, I automatically have to be humble and go, well, the guys who are older than me with more experience and have access to classified intelligence have also reached that conclusion. So when I look at something that seems so obvious, like they're pushing it towards a war, towards a revolution, and then we look at things like, well, you don't need a gun, you're never going to fight against the U.S. military. But then I'm like, well, Vietnam, they did it with sandals and AKs. War on Terror, they did it with sandals and AKs. And right now we're even just seeing Ukraine versus Russia. Just sprinkle some guns in there, and voila. The guerrilla warfare will bleed a machine dry. So then I go, well, they know that. And so where at first I go, oh, these idiots, don't they know that it will never work anywhere? Not here, not Russia, not Congo, not Netherlands. And then I go, of course they know that. And do they want that? Have they war gamed it? And do they want that? Because when you have a guerrilla faction, or guerrilla warfare, or what word am I looking for? I don't know, just like an occupying force, then you can justify the heavy hand of the government. We have to smash the rebel. It's the plot of every video game. You're part of the rebels, and the government uses it to justify and roll in the tanks, hyper-normalization. That's what I think when I have guys on like you or Dale Comstock or other guys that were in Ground Branch, or Mike Durant, or Brigadier General Robert Spalding. And they say like they're pushing us to this point where these people will not give up what they have, nor should they. I can't help but think they're evil, but they're not stupid. Maybe arrogant. They're not stupid. They know what they're doing. The Nazis were stupid in that they thought they could take over the world in 4 years on meth. They weren't stupid in that they got pretty close to it.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that? Because they know that this would lead to a revolution. It's like someone like poking the dog, and you go, dude, stop poking the dog, it's gonna bite you. And they're going, I know, I want it to bite me because then I can have mom and dad put it down because I hate this dog.
Yeah, it's I am thoroughly convinced after observing from the 14,000 foot level over the last, well, particularly the last 12, 13 years, when a lot of things were happening that were, pretty disruptive in the United States, blatantly, where we were looking at BLM, Antifa, all these things that, and the Democratic Party becoming more socialist, watching all of that move and some of the decisions. The objective here is to divide a country. Now, our country has always been divided
Sure.
since the beginning. I mean, make no doubt about it. Not to the extent that I believe it can be, but it has always been divided in one way or another. Even during the American Revolution, it was still divided. But we always managed to come together and unite as Americans, even though we had certain certain beliefs that were different from others. But none of them were blatantly within the majority. They weren't like, get rid of the Constitution, down with America. We want to be a one world order. We want this and this. They weren't like that before. Now, the way they've been able to get there is the same way Stalin and Marx did. Right now, we don't teach constitutional law. We don't teach American history like it's supposed to be taught. We don't teach about the founding. A lot of stuff isn't being taught. So you're having generations grow up not knowing where they came from. Just as Stalin and Marx, if you have generations that don't know where they come from, then they can become whatever you want them to become. If they don't know that they were free at one time and you say, no, you've never been free. The government is always taking care of you. It's like being on a welfare check all your life. You're never going to work because all you know is that the government is giving you money and you never say every month, well, where does that money come from? Well, it comes from guys like you and I who pay taxes, of course. And it comes without us voting that or our approval. So we're being stolen from by a bureaucracy. So when you slow move all of this stuff generation after generation, then what happens is you no longer have people in responsible positions that believe in the Constitution. They don't know about it. They don't know about a lot of things. And we say, well, if they go to Congress or if they join the Senate or whatever, they should. But the majority of them never get there. So for us in our country, our silent majority that does know the difference has been silent too long. And so what will happen is by design, they will create, they meaning globalists, socialists, all they have to do is create enough conflict between those who do know the Constitution and those who know nothing of the Constitution. And the country will become so divided and so disruptive that it will no longer exist as a nation. It may still be the United States, but then you will have the fighting, then you will have, all of those things, and then you'll have division of the military and law enforcement and whatever it may be. And then you'll have things like Adam Schiff's trying to do, which is put the military in the control of Biden. And then they make all kinds of crazy claims like those rebels, they hate America, blah, blah, blah. And then what you have is you have just destruction. And then there's so much continued conflict, excuse me, that getting back to where we were becomes a long, long path. Look, an example of Ukraine and Russia right now. Who knows how long that's going to last? But I can tell you what, rebuilding Ukraine, even building Russia back up to a certain degree, is going to be a long road for all of them. So in our country, when you start seeing things like we're not teaching Constitution, we're not teaching history, we're not teaching about our forefathers, we don't teach people to do the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't know what this country is about. Now you take down all the statues, historical statues, good or bad, it's still our history. If you don't know about it, you're bound to repeat it. So it's like, leave them up so people have questioned, but you do all of that. And what you're actually doing is you're erasing the foundation of the greatest nation in the world. And they don't have to do much after that. It'll implode. And that's by design.
At 100% is. I just had on the author, I forget, John O'Neill, and this co-author Sarah Wynn, The Devil and the Dancer, and it's all about Stalin's kind of fingerprintless assassinations. He had his gulags, right? He had the KGB, he had the Lubyanka prison, but then he had I can't remember. Of course, I don't remember the name of it because I don't speak Russian, but it's basically his bioweapons department, the quiet, stealthy, like, oh, what a coincidence that that journalist died or whatever. And how it developed, and then there's Unit 731 from Japan, and then we brought a lot of them back, a lot of the Japanese scientists. Everybody knows about Operation Paperclip with the German scientists, but we brought back a lot of I don't know if we brought back Shiro Ishii, but I know we brought back a lot of the really bioterrorists from Unit 731 who experimented on American POWs. Excuse me. And then how all of this developed really into, I mean, biopreparat in the Soviet Union, which became the full-fledged bioweapons program. It was less of a quiet, lethal thing and more of an all-out deterrence force. I've actually pat myself on the back. I've interviewed Ken Albeck, who is the head of biopreparat, defected to the United States in 1991 or two. But the point is, in this whole thing, he's talking about Stalin's like murderous philosophy. And outside of all the bioweapons and this, that, and the other thing, you see again and again, Stalin's main prerogative was it wasn't just journalists he was taking down. He wanted to take down famous actors, actresses, ballet dancers, artists, painters, poets, anything and anyone that reminded people of the greatness of their Russian heritage, of the rich multi-thousand-year-old history that they have. Stalin wanted to remove all of it, because when you have none of it, and when you crush every church, and I think he said, when I am done, even the word God will be dead.
Right.
There is nothing else to do but focus on the state. There's nothing else. This is the leader. This is dear leader. We will absolve you of your sins. And I mean, you saw it with ISIS in in the 20 teens, right? It was the first thing they do. Start blowing up all the monuments. Hey, you don't forget this, forget this. It's all about the current state, the current whatever that they're calling it. Well, not important. I'm having a brain fart. The more you remove it, and I get, I get it's if there was like swastika flags flying, I would get where it'd be like, okay, that's pretty fucked up. But things like the Confederacy, like, you have to leave it there so you know what happened. I mean, I went to school at the University of Georgia. You could go down and look at these these historical monuments where now we have the political science building, it will be, and it would say like, or go to Charleston. You can literally go to the blocks where it's like, slaves were once sold here. You could pick, what did you want? Did you want a fertile female or did you want a big, strong male? Horrifying, dehumanizing things, but you don't remove it, because when you remove it, well, then there's no memory of it. And how could it ever happen? Because it hasn't happened before. That's why we don't erase the memory of the fire bombings of Dresden or D-Day or the concentration camps. No, it's never forget. That's why it is. Why do we have the two imprints where the World Trade Center? It's never forget. So we don't do it again. Now, I know I'm rambling now, but and you see that by design, erase this. And how Orwellian it is that now how much of it's digital. You don't even need to blow up a monument. You just go in and just do a little stealth edit. Baz never worked with the CIA. Donald Trump was never president. Joe Rogan's always been a white supremacist. You're seeing it creep in an ever increasingly lethal and ruthless form. And I mean, maybe we do live in interesting times. I mean, it's always easy to think we live in the craziest times, but everyone always thinks they live in the crazy. I think we actually live in the craziest times. And sorry, I know I'm rambling now, but
no, it's okay. Yeah, everything you're saying is so true. It's all of that stuff is taking place. Nikita Khrushchev, we always go back to this during Kennedy's days, and he's the guy that said the democracy would cease to exist when you take from those who are willing to work and give to those who would not. And that's what we're doing now when you have all that distribution stuff. And he said, we won't have to take over America. He goes, we'll just slowly, it'll erode itself, because we'll slowly keep inserting, socialism, until all of a sudden one day you wake up and your children's children will live under communism. He said, I'd say what he said. He said,
they will raise the flag.
Right. Yeah. He said something about you Americans, you called us really gullible, which we are. And he said, you won't accept communism outright, but we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you finally wake up and find that you're already against communism. And we won't have to fight you. We'll just so weaken your economy until you will fall like ripe fruit into our hands. And that's kind of what's happening right now. So, and I think, that if we look at it, um, it's interesting to wonder who's in bed with the socialists, who's in bed with the global. I think socialism and communism, and I have to be careful with this because I don't want people to think I'm a pro-Putin guy.
Yeah.
But Putin was an outstanding KGB officer. He was very calculated, particularly during my time coming up, and he was, in some ways, he was to be respected for his tradecraft and how good he was. He rose to power. I don't think Putin, and of course I don't know this for a fact, but I'd like to think from the outside looking in, I don't think he has time to worry about overthrowing the US, and trying to, but I think he knows that there are enough people like Biden, like the Democrats, who are already socialists, which are now really globalist, which are pushing for the destruction of the United States. And interesting enough, it could very well be that Putin and Russia itself aren't buying into the whole globalist thing. Russia, it's interesting as, the Russians, they love their motherland. They don't want to be ruled by anybody, including globalists, including the George Soroses of the world, including the Bilderbergs, the Vanderbilts, the
not Napoleon, not Hitler,
not Napoleon, not anybody, right? So when I look at that, I think, you know what? Maybe they're trying to do something that we should be thinking about doing, and it's like stop all the globalism stuff in our own country, because all it is the very thing that they had in their country, they don't want to come back and bite them in the butt. Yeah. To some degree. So in our country, it is biting us in the butt. It really is.
It's almost like when you're just kind of sitting there staring at a fire for a while, and then all of a sudden it just like you thought you were looking at like a log, and then it just goes and it falls in and out. So you didn't realize it had been completely hollowed out, carbonized, and then there's nothing.
Great analogy. Yeah.
And you go, the hell? An hour ago I threw it on there and it was get this big old thing and crank it on there, and this you don't even hear it. You go, the fuck is that? That's what they're doing. And again, it's brilliant. You don't come up. If I gotta go fight like a 6'10" linebacker, I'm 5'8" on a good day. I'm not coming at him head on. I'm not even gonna come at him when he's awake.
That's right.
I'm gonna come at him with probably with a log when he's sleeping, because you can't come at it head on. The American war machine, it just is what it is. You can't take it head on, but what you can do is slowly and methodically just needle this here, needle this there, just push. And then you think, people always say, or the critique to the critique is, well, why would they push it so hard? If are we just agreeing to disagree? I like blue, yeah, you like green. It's, well, when you look at a history of the KGB, again, Dancer and the Devil, was that the book by Sarah Wynne and John O'Neill? Or another I've had on a former CIA agent, Ken Clisby, his book Willing Accomplices. They always talk about what Stalin would do, what Khrushchev would do, what Brezhnev would do, is when you'd send agents over to the United States to set up, active measures to infiltrate, you take your best agents, right? Let's say you throw over 10, 8 of them, whatever, get caught and executed or turned, whatever. 2 of them come back. We've successfully infiltrated the Film Actors Guild. We've successfully infiltrated the Library Association and whatever. They don't care. It's a grab bag. Right. Anything you can get. We set it up and we've recruited our own guys. And now it's once they get to this like perpetuating thing, well, then you call those guys back, because it's time to congratulate you. They get shot in the back of the head. Why is that? Because they're the most competent ones. So hey, you did a good job.
Don't do it to us.
Yeah. I have 10 sons, and the strongest one, I'm proud of you. Come over here, break his neck. You're not taking my women. I want the ones that are just dumb enough to do the work. Stalin did it. And so did Lavrenti Beria. It was almost like it sounds like a stupid almost inception, but he'd use he'd use 1,000 guys to execute 1,000,000, and then he'd use 100 to execute the 1,000, and then he'd use 10 to execute the 100, and then he'd have 3 more that he'd have execute each other, or they'd all just, burn. They'd be pushed into the chamber too. This whole thing is not about a utopia. It's beautifully disguised as that. When the pedophile rolls up in the white van, they don't say, "Hey, I'm gonna kidnap you and rape you and kill you." They go, "Hey, you like puppies?"
That's right.
Of course they do. That's what they're doing. Let's, what the you knew I was a snake. Why did you let me across? Why did you let me ride across on the turtle's back? You knew I was a scorpion when I got on. It's a raw, ruthless, naked pursuit of power. It's not they're not pushing it because they truly believe in system where we all are equal. That sounds great. It sounds like some Jesus stuff. Hey, I'm on board. I would love if we all held hands. The reason why they do it is because it is a raw pursuit of power. Kim Jong-un is perfectly happy. He's got a big old palace. He's got his horse. He's got his Lambos and his tanks and his whatever he wants. Isn't he like the biggest consumer of cognac in the world or something? Hennessy. He's fine. Xi Jinping is fine. Putin is fine. They don't care about the rest. So when you look at it and they go, well, why would they be pushing it so hard if it was just going to destroy America? Because they don't give a shit. It's 0.0001% are fine. That's it.
Well, it's like this administration, the
Yeah.
hypocrisy that exists in this administration, which they don't think we see. When you do things like you stand and present yourself as a humanitarian, as a president, saying, these people are coming across the border. We have to let them in. They have hard times, blah, blah, whatever it may be. They're not telling the truth. What they're doing is they're flooding the United States with people that the economy can never take care of, that the education system can never take care of. So they overburden the middle class. If you can destroy the middle class, you only have 2 classes. You have the poor and you have the elites, right? The middle class and what people need to understand, have always been the bridge for somebody that is really poor, working really hard and becoming a wealthy person. That's what the middle class has done. The middle class hasn't always become wealthy. They've just been right in the middle there, so to speak, to bridge that gap. Well, you get so many immigrants here that have no education, they can't get a job, whatever. They're going to have to depend on the government. The government's going to come up with programs. They're going to be social programs, socialist programs to take care of all these people. These people don't know any better or any different because where they came from.
Sure.
And then they once again are going to kind of continue to vote for a socialist government that continues to take care of them. And they don't mind being ruled because most of them came from countries where they were ruled already. Look at Venezuela, dictatorship. Okay, look at all the other countries. And for most Americans that don't really understand the border crisis, it's just not Latinos coming across. They're coming from all over the world. And we have security issues to deal with as well. We probably have more terrorists in our country now than we can shake a stick at. And they're going to do what terrorists do eventually. It's going to create more destruction. So this administration is doing nothing more than building up a dictatorship, a socialist platform that we won't have any choice but to accept, because they'll create laws around it which say you don't have a right as an American to ship somebody back out of the country if they're here illegal, even if they're breaking the law, even if you can do citizens arrests, all of this. So it's by design. And I know hopefully a lot of people are hoping that we take over the Senate and the House during the midterms. But what if we don't? The question goes back to the American people. What if we do not? What are you going to do about it? And I think that's the hard question right there. It has to be answered is, what are you going to do about it? And I don't think a lot of people sit down and ask that or look in the mirror and come face to face with, well, what should I do about it? What can I do about it to save the country? Because the generations that are coming behind us are so distracted by entitlement, technology, whatever it may be. They actually believe that the country just runs on its own. It's on automatic, and it does.
Mhm.
And that's not true. And the scary thing for them is that if we ever lose our democracy, they'll suffer. They and their children and their grandchildren will suffer beyond anything they can imagine right now. When they have people tell them when they go and where they go and what they can say and what they can't say, and because you're standing in a bread line, and you're only going to get as much food as the government gives you, and you're not allowed to work because the government owns your land now. They own your house, whatever it may be. Then they're going to wake up and go, oh my gosh, what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. You were a bunch of idiots, and you didn't honor your ancestors with the way you live your life. And you didn't take time to understand that freedom isn't free, that people have sacrificed for it. Real people, not imaginary people. Real people have given their lives so that we can be free, so that we can have a constitution and we can uphold the laws of the land so that all men were created equal. Talk about slavery. Oh my gosh. Sometimes the finger just gets pointed here at America as like the bad guys. People all over the world have been enslaved. Doesn't mean it's good. Everybody has been enslaved. The Irish have been enslaved. Americans have been enslaved. The Israelis were enslaved. The Armenians were enslaved. Black Africans were enslaved when they came here before they were Americans. White indentured servants were enslaved. The list goes on and on and on. It's not dedicated to one group of people. Slavery sucks, but yet it was a part of the world and the mentality of the world at one time that we fought really hard to get over. And I think we did a pretty good job of it, And yet the socialists and the globalists use it once again, and racism as a point of contention. So they can basically divide us. I tell, I've spoken on this many, many times, and I tell my friends, I say, and I can get away with it because I'm part Native American and part Lebanese. So, I'm not really a white guy, so there you have it. But I tell people, I go, there are no African Americans in this country. There are no Chinese Americans. There's no Irish Americans. There's no German Americans. We're just Americans.
Yeah.
And the sooner you understand that, the better off this country is. When I go down range and drag my buddies out of the trenches, we all bleed the same color. All of us. We're Americans, So a lot of people that go, well, I'm African American. You never lived in Africa. I spent most of my life living in Africa. I'm probably more African than anybody else. But, or somebody goes, oh, I'm Irish American.
Yeah, I'm Irish.
And they may have never been to Ireland,
I've never left the United States.
Exactly.
I'm Irish American. I'm playing with Carrigan. I'm not.
So, my buddy said, I'm a Russian American. You've never even lived in Russia. You're an American. And that's what matters. And when you start standing on all this other stuff, and it doesn't mean you can't be proud of where your ancestors came from. I think that's a good thing. But when it comes to nationalism and you don't want to be divided, then unite yourselves together as Americans. When we're downrange on the battlefield, we don't have that problem. When you're fighting the enemy, we don't have that problem. And so I think the way that we are teaching people to look at themselves is really bad. That would be like walking out for tryouts for the Dallas Cowboys and going, I'm here, I'm a 49er Cowboy. They're going to look at you, what? You're either a 49er or you're a Cowboy. If you're a 49er and you're trying out for the Cowboys, you're not on our team, okay? Yeah. And that's what I tell people all the time. Well, if you're anything, making claims to be anything other than just an American, then personally and professionally, I question your loyalty. I wonder where your head is and what you're thinking, and when you're going to jump ship. I want somebody that's beside me that understands the heritage of this country, is proud to be an American. And does that mean that we do everything right? No, nobody, no country has done everything right. But generally speaking, I will tell you something about nations. Generally speaking, the people of those nations do get it right, and they're good people. It's the bureaucracy, it's the government overseeing the nation that usually makes bad decisions. And we've had that happen, and other countries have had that happen. But you can't blame Americans for that if all they want to do is be Americans and love this country and love the flag and love our history. You can't blame them for it. So what we see going on, this divisiveness in our country is creating a lot of problems. And I'll tell you another thing too, Tommy, this inclusive crap, not everybody can be included. And I don't want to hurt someone's feelings because I'm not being inclusive. Look.
Hey, they're not letting me in the NBA.
Yeah, exactly. What am I going to do? A lawsuit because I'm not qualified to be in the NBA?
I would love to be fucking handing off to Tom Brady.
Yeah, exactly. Not happening, with me either. So they use all these warm and fuzzy initiatives to actually divide more people up in the nation because they know that united we stand, divided we fall. And if you can get people, Americans, to believe in nothing but American stuff, like the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, our history, and the fact that we've gone and defended almost every other nation that's been in trouble around this world since I can remember, all of a sudden something strange happens. People start seeing, guess what they start seeing? They don't start seeing their differences. They start seeing an identity that is even to everybody else because we're just Americans. Yeah. We're nothing else but that.
Yeah. It's Baz, I'm going to use the restroom real quick. I'm going to have you monologue, tell everybody where to find you. And then I've got an analogy I'm going to come back with.
Sure. Thanks, Tommy. My organization is recoveryofchildren.org. You can go to www.associationfortherecoveryofchildren.org or recoveryofchildren.org and take a look at a few things that we do down there to rescue missing, exploited, and abducted American children. I also have a pretty good book I think you'd be interested in called Something Bigger Than Overthrowing Small Governments. If you go to bozbooks.com, you can pick that up there as well.
Alrighty.
Okay, buddy.
The analogy I was going to use is it's kind of a cop out, but I'm just using my own experiences. Sometimes, and I'll put on my academic formal vocabulary. Sometimes shit has to get so fucked before you fight for what you had. And on a microcosm, I had a concussion 2 months ago, and I've always been somewhat sensitive to alcohol, but really recently I've found even if I have like 2 or 3 beers, like the next day I'll have like a panic attack, not anxiety, full-blown panic attack. And it's happened for the last couple weekends, and I'll wake up on a Saturday just full-blown cold sweats, stuck in bed, just the walls are closing in. And in those moments, I go, God, how much I miss just 5 days ago. I miss waking up and having to pull myself to the gym. I wake up, I make my bed, put on gym clothes, I do the dishes, do the laundry, walk to the gym, do a mile on the treadmill, do my push-ups, pull-ups, wall sits, planks, and then do whatever workout I'm doing that day. Come back, shower, meditate, do the podcast, normally do another podcast. All the while I'm listening to an audiobook up until the podcast. When that's over, I edit it, upload it, put it on all the social media, call my mom, have dinner, go to bed. And it gets exhausting. I mean, within like 3 days, you're like, Jesus Christ. But when I'm in the throes of a panic attack, I think, God, how much I want the luxury of just working hard. I mean, today I didn't sleep well last night. It's hot as hell. I texted you, I'm being a big pussy, but like, I'm here and I'm not having a panic attack. I'm working. I have another podcast after this, and how great the struggle is. And in a vacuum, you'd go, why'd you not sleep in? Why did you go to the gym? Who the hell wants to go to the gym? Why are you eating broccoli and chicken? Why are you not at the beach drinking? Because in a vacuum, you do look at it like that. In college, I was pre-med. I did this on steroids. I just studied all the time, meditated all the time. I had no life. After my brother died in 2014, and I was just doing a ton of drugs, I literally gained like 70 plus pounds, and I didn't have enough work ethic to brush my teeth. I would yearn for the days where I had to get up early and study for organic chemistry, because although it was difficult, it yielded a life that I was proud of, that was mine, that no one handed to me. Doesn't matter if your dad's a billionaire. I mean, you either get organic chemistry or you don't. And that's what Arnold Schwarzenegger said about like the body, right? It's the only thing you can't buy. Nobody gets to tax them. When I do 50 push-ups, I don't get to keep 25 of the muscle and 25 goes to you. It's mine. I have found in my limited 31-year experience that sometimes you really gotta burn your hand on the oven. You gotta have the air conditioner go out to realize just how great it is to have. You have to have it all come crashing down in order to not in some Hallmark card. I guess that's the lesson I learned. No, but to actually go, I'm getting up, cold shower, making the bed, open the blinds, going out. You're anxious, suck it up, go out, get some sunshine, go throw some bread at geese, like get moving. You have to build this back up. And because I don't need the FBI visiting me again, this is not a call for violence. But sometimes you have to have it get slapped around so much till one day you wake up and you go, they've printed 80% of all US dollars in the last year. There's 30 plus thousand people dead from the VAERS vaccine injuries. They're not enforcing basic rule of law in cities. I mean, liberal Starbucks, didn't they just say they're not operating in like Portland, Oregon anymore?
Yeah, they'd rather lose money than change their woke way.
Yeah, because they realize we're giving money to Ukraine out the ass. We're not covering our borders. There's rampant censorship that Teddy Roosevelt would have ripped these monopolies in half. No one believes the election was valid. Sometimes you have to have the society has to start having that Saturday morning where your heart's beating, you're clammy, and the walls are closing in, and oh my God, what's going on? What am I? What is the purpose of life? Is there such thing as love? Am I gonna die? Sometimes you have to have before you step up and smack yourself in the face, you open the blinds and you go, get it together and start working towards it. Sometimes you have to have that. Now, I also understand that what I'm talking about is on a timeline of a couple hours, or at worst, after my brother, a couple of years to get back. On the nation state level, I mean, what does the quote go? You vote socialism in and then you shoot your way out. I get that. And I get that I don't get that because I don't have any combat experience. But if it can be averted, do you see that as perhaps, or am I just being a doe-eyed optimist, which all the Delta Force and CIA guys always tell me, like, Tommy, shut up. But like, is there any truth to that maybe you gotta kind of get your ass kicked? Or is it just you've seen enough of the world where you're like, no, lock and load?
Yeah, I think Tommy, it has a lot to do with the individual. For example, you're built that way. I'm built that way, and when things get rough for us, we get going. There's a lot of people in America that don't care. So that's what we're up against is like, we want to think that, okay, the nation is struggling to a point that people get fed up with it and they go, okay, enough's enough. I keep looking for that.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes full circle back to what we said in the very beginning of the session here. How do we hold people accountable? What's the mechanism for that? In a broken judicial system, the question is, what's the mechanism? What is it that bad people understand? What's the message that has to be sent to wake them up, not wake us up? I think there's enough people enslaved or can be enslaved in a socialist communist system, or what we're seeing now with broken economy and stupidity. I think they know what's going on and they don't like it. I think some of them feel their hands are tied. So the question, I think, to we the people has to be, what is the message that has to be sent to the bad people that says no more? For example, and again, we always say this because it's important to, we're not advocating violence. But why is it
for the love of God, we're not advocating violence?
Exactly.
I've had enough legal fees.
Yeah.
Go on.
Why did they do the Boston Tea Party?
Yeah.
You know, why did something change at the Boston Massacre? What was the message that they sent the British to say enough is enough? I don't necessarily have the answer to that. I think many messages were sent. And I think there were many delivery mechanisms for those messages, to be honest with you. But I think in our country, I think that's what we should be asking ourselves, to be honest with you. Maybe the message is I'm voting in a Republican who's going to do what I say in Congress. What do you do when all of a sudden he doesn't do what you say in Congress? And how do you know he's doing what you say in Congress? Are you calling him up? Are you sending him a letter? Are you visiting him at his office and saying, "Okay, can we have lunch and talk about this?" I don't know what people are doing. I just know that as out of hand as it is right now, I don't think that people are doing enough. I think we're always hoping that at the end of the storm, there's going to be a big, beautiful rainbow. But I fear that one day there may not be a big rainbow. The storm will come through and the storm may continue, so I think that what I've seen in my experience is that you have to ask yourselves these hard questions way ahead of time and not get behind the 8 ball. I don't know what that timing is, Tommy, to be honest with you. I myself, very much like you, if you like when I got out of the hospital, I was like, okay, enough's enough. I'm tired of being sick. I'm going to do everything I can to get back to where I need to be. And that's the type of person we are. But there aren't a lot of people always like us. I was in a coffee shop the other day and there was this girl, fairly young, maybe she was 15, purple hair, had some jeans on that had all kinds of things written on it. And one of the things said, "Feed the poor, eat the rich." And I wanted to, and I'm still going to do this when I see her next time. I wanted to say, "Can I ask you a question? Look, I grew up extremely poor. My grandfather was an immigrant, worked 3 jobs to take care of his family. I worked my way through college. I wasn't a wealthy guy. I didn't have any entitlements, blah, blah, blah. And then I went in the military and I worked really hard. And then I just worked hard and smart until I became better off than I am now. What should I do with my money? Should I give it away to somebody? And what are you going to do with your money? You work hard here at this barista. Do you want to give me the $100 you made today and let me take it and divide it equally among all these customers here? How will you feel about that?" And chances are I know what her answer is going to be. She's going to hesitate.
Shut up, you white Nazi.
Yeah, or something like that. But the reality of it is we live in a country, it's not a socialist country yet. We live in a country where you can work hard and you can make something of yourself. And when you do, it's yours and you have pride with it. No one can take that away from you. Yeah, we even get pissed off at taxes. The IRS tries to take as much as they can from us. And we still complain. It's like, wait a minute, I worked for this, you didn't work for that. And then we reason with ourselves and go, okay, some of it will go to fix the roads and some of it will go to help schools. And those things might be true, but a large percentage of it goes to illegal immigrants and other social programs that we didn't vote for, whatever. And then we get frustrated all over again and we go, where do we draw the line? I don't know the answer to that. I think that line is different for every person in the country, what they're willing to tolerate. And sometimes they retaliate with lawsuits or say no, or I'm not going to pay any taxes ever again, or whatever it may be. So it's different for all of us. But overall, the nation state level, we are at a point, I believe, from my professional experience, where people are starting to say enough's enough. And how that will evolve is yet to be seen. I don't think in our country, excuse me, if we already know in our country, a lot of people express this, that our judicial system is not only corrupt, but it's failing us. There's no accountability. When you see the Hunter Bidens of this world and the Joe Bidens who have been involved in corruption, now the Hillary Clintons and the Nancy Pelosi's, and a lot of other people that don't go to jail for crimes they've committed. And yet the little guy off the street goes to jail for a crime he committed. Something's wrong with that. People see that, and people are not pleased with that. So when a nation, in my experience from my time in the CIA, fails to take care of its people properly, and there's inequality on the judicial level, or there's corruption like we have it, the stick of dynamite is being lit. And I think, we have all our 3-letter agencies and people to go, well, we can circumvent anything from happening, blah, blah, blah. We'll do this and this and this. They cannot. They cannot. I know they cannot. And they know they cannot, because I sit in meetings with them having these very same discussions, whether it's my law enforcement partners or it's political partners or whatever it may be, they know that they cannot. So because they know that they cannot, the administration that wants to control everything knows they cannot either. So what they try to do is get the choker around the neck of the people sooner rather than later, with things like this thing we're talking about with Adam Schiff, executive orders, just doing whatever they want to do. And while the people still going, wait a minute, how come you're not being held accountable for that? Wait a minute, how come Hillary Clinton's not in jail? Wait a minute, how come Jeffrey Epstein and that whole thing is just kind of fading off into the dark? Wait a minute, how come Biden can embarrass the Supreme Court and another nation and do treasonous things, and yet no one is bringing him up on charges of treason? And I have to tell you, and I've talked to constitutional lawyers about this, friends of mine here in Colorado. Things that Biden has done and this administration have done are literally considered treasonous. Like, why is he in bed with the enemy? Why is he in bed with China? And guess what? There are a lot of people that know he's in bed with China and that his son has deals in China. These are the enemy of our state. And yet they're not held accountable for that. And I think these things collectively are just parts of the formula that are actually creating a cake in American society that is going to not turn out to be very tasteful at all.
When I think about that, because I'm not a Biden guy, and I try to be aware of my own biases, that we're always going to think the other side. I voted for Obama in 2008 because I was 18 and I was dumb as shit. I voted for Romney in 2012 because I was pre-med and didn't want Obamacare. I wanted my fucking money. I voted for Bernie in the primaries in 2016 because it was 2 years after I lost my brother to suicide and I wanted healthcare for all. No, and then I didn't vote in the presidential election in 2016. And I voted for Trump in 2020 because he wasn't a fucking communist. So I try to stay aware of, and whenever I made those votes, I was for sure I've got it figured out now. And I'm sure, who knows, maybe in 2026 I'll be looking back at me and going, that moron. I hope, because that means I'm growing. But all that aside, you can't help but really question, I mean, really the lay person. Because, when we hide things behind, well, it's a national security, there's a dossier you don't know about that, it's Executive Order 11944, and Ronald Reagan technically funded. And you go, I mean, all right, but whatever, and that doesn't make it good. But when just giving money to other nations, when cutting off oil supply to our own nation, when giving away the strategic petroleum reserve to other nations, the average Joe who doesn't know anything about the National Security Council or the National Defense Industrial Alliance or Executive Order 917432 and, Brilliant Pebbles in the National Reconnaissance Office, and did you tweet a picture of the average person starts to look at this and goes, this seems like a demo at our very basics. Oil, gotta have energy. Food, we are carbon-based life forms. We eat and we shit. At the very basis, it seems like someone there's a rat in the up in the electrical out, just pulling stuff and pulling it around. You then have to go back to what I said at the beginning of this conversation. If I have these realizations, smarter people, wiser people like you have also had these realizations. So what's the next step then? I gotta go through the looking glass. Well, if it's all just power politics, and not just in America, but I mean just from Caesar till now, you're either going, this is treasonous, and for the sake of the Constitution, it needs to be brought to light, or if you're looking at this myopic, raw pursuit of power, you're going, he's in bed with China, he's demolishing the United States. I now have blackmail on him, and now I control him. And you don't care about the bigger picture because, again, like Kim Jong-un, you'd rather rule over your own pile of ashes than just be a participating member of a utopia. That's what I start to think. I'm not as black-pilled to think that the entire military structure has been compromised, and maybe they are. Maybe as I'm getting hung in a gulag, I'll go, you got me. I mean, possibly, but I try to look at it as like Occam's razor. I'm like, what is this? I would imagine, if I could, in my limited knowledge, even when you go look at read old, books about the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and you see them maneuvering, and you read old transcripts, and they're all talking shit. I mean, even the JFK tapes, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, you can hear them being little piss ants to each other. What would Curtis LeMay say? He looks at JFK and he goes, you're in a real fix. And he goes, what did you say? And he goes, you're in a real fix. And he goes, you're here with me. We're gonna be at this. Hey buddy, we're gonna be at the center of the same mushroom cloud.
All right.
So if I can break it down to human motive and the same, like Joe Rogan will say when he interviews a family, you go, oh, this is just a person. I would imagine that people in that rarefied air of National Security Council, Secretary of Defense, DIA or DOJ or Department of Energy, or you're part of the corporate or Fortune 500, or you're in the Five Eyes, or you're in Davos, or you're in whatever. I would imagine it's something more along the lines of, he is compromised. Why burn that? Why not? I'm not going to twist the knife. I'm just going to jiggle it just a little bit so he knows it's there. And I go, okay, now I'm going to get mine. I'm going to get my nut. That's my very naive take, is that people know and they're using it to their own ends. Now, are those people part of the Davos globalists, satanic monsters who just believe in death and blackness? Maybe. And yet, again, maybe I'll be maybe as I'm being sacrificed on an altar in a black mass, I'll go, huh, joke's on me. Baz was right. Sorry, Baz, you're next to me. You're like, told you. But like, I imagine it's probably simpler, not any less evil, but it's like, Goering. Was it Goering or who's the guy? Who's the Nazi addicted to morphine? I can't remember. It's in Blitz by Norman Ohler. I've interviewed that author. It's a great book. Hitler would butter him up and give him all the morphine he wanted. And every morning he'd get big fat guy. He'd get out of bed every morning, and he had this I think it was like a deer antler case. He'd open it up, red velvet, take out a syringe, clear glass syringe with gold tips, and he'd take a nice big old hit of morphine. He'd put it in his arm, let his eyes turn black, put his slippers on, and then he would go about his day. That was actually why Dunkirk happened the way it did. He called off the final advancement of the ground forces because he wasn't him who was in charge of the Luftwaffe. He wanted this massive, glorious, the Reichsmarschall will come in from the air and I will be, because again, they're all Hitler, Himmler, Goring, Goebbels, they're all right there pivoting with Hitler. And you read all of their journals and it's the same childish antics where they're just trying to stab each other in the back. And then you look at something as decisive as Dunkirk, and you realize it's because this guy was high on morphine and he wanted to impress Hitler. It kind of blows your mind that it ripples throughout society in those ways. So this whole kind of schizophrenic ramble I'm going on right now is, I think it's probably more complex than I could ever imagine. But at the same time, it might also just be the simplest, just vying for power and women and money. Like it might just be, yeah, I know Biden's destroying the nation, but he knows I know that he knows. And so now I can get what I want. Sorry, I just subjected you to that verbal abuse, but that's what I think it is. It's probably they know it's treasonous and someone's getting something out of it. And they've managed to plausibly deny and insulate themselves enough that if Biden goes down, they can say, oh, I was just monitoring him because I'm in the CIA.
Yeah,
Thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
No, I think it's more like what you just finished with, to be honest with you. There's always human error, but there's also by design. And I think that with this administration, there are other people controlling it. I think Obama's very much in it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of globalists are very much in it. It's never about, in our history, it's never about, excuse me.
You're good.
It's never about what will be done to the nation. It's about what are the people willing to do to defend the nation.
Yeah.
It will always be that way. If they're willing to do nothing, then what they have and the freedoms they have will be taken from them, because people of power want more power. They want more money. They're greedy. And we've seen that over the course of time. And so much to the point that early on, they did it quietly because they knew the people would, I guess rebel is a good word, in one way or another. Rebel politically, rebel physically, rebel, just rebel if they were too blatant about it. And now they believe they're getting comfortable with the fact that people are just accepting whatever they say.
Yeah. And
they're not challenged. And if they are challenged, then they ignore it and they get away because, again, there's no accountability. So as long as they have that system in play, they'll just keep doing whatever they want because they can never be challenged and they feel powerful with it. Excuse me. And I think that's where they believe they are now. I think it's delusional, to be quite honest with you, but they seem to be getting away with it every single day. And so a lot to be seen in the future. It's kind of like, most recently I just had this I was going to share with you that, well, there you go, slipped my mind, whatever it was, but and it was going to be good too. I know it was going to be good.
Try to jog your memory.
Yeah, I'll
what
think
people are
about
willing
it.
to do, what people are willing to accept, what they're willing to fight for, politically rebel.
Yeah.
Gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
A fleeting thought, I guess, you know. So anyway,
yeah.
but they feed us stuff and they just expect us to believe it. And some people do, and many of us do not. And so I think that the people of the country, whoever those people are, that love the country, have to just stand on what cannot be challenged directly or indirectly, and that's the Constitution of the United States. And it's not that it can't be challenged, it can be dissolved, and then we don't have a nation at all. And there will come a time, just as we looked at our lives and said, oh, this would never happen, or that would never happen. There will literally come a time, mark my word, Tommy, probably in our lifetime, where you will literally have the president of the United States, maybe this one, maybe Congress, literally start discussing methods or motives for dissolving the Constitution of the United States. We have a better idea. We're going to rewrite this, whatever it may be. And they will attempt to do that. Exactly. Because as long as it exists, there's this chance that new generations might stumble on it by accident and read and go, wait a minute.
We got this
I have
awesome
I have a First Amendment right. I have a Second Amendment right. You mean I have this? Wait a minute. I'm an American, and this says that this is my right. Where did this come from? How come nobody ever told me about this? Well, you never knew about it because it didn't exist, or it got put away in a museum in the Smithsonian as what the old Constitution used to be. And that's very dangerous for a nation. And that in itself, and the possibility of that occurring, which it can. My dad always says, never say never, and don't be surprised if it does. And so where we are in our nation now, a lot of people would disagree with me and say, oh, that'll never happen. Well, unfortunately, I've participated in the downfall of a few governments, and I know how it's done. And we are not immune from that.
Yeah.
And we are getting dangerously close to that. And it really doesn't matter why they want to do it.
Yeah.
As much as the fact is they're doing it. You know, it's kind of like someone breaks into your house. I don't need to know why they broke into my house. I know they broke into my house, they're probably going to get shot.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to wait to ask them why you have a gun and a knife, why you have a balaclava on, and why you're coming through my window. I can assume that it's to steal, kill, rape, whatever it is, but I'm not going to take the time to even ask that question. You know the law. The law says this is my property. Don't come in. Don't come here. Well, we have a law. It's called the Constitution of the United States, and it's what secures our freedoms. That in itself, not just what's written on the paperwork, but the enforcement of that. And so for me as an American and a patriot, and by the way, I think I mentioned I'm not a Republican nor a Democrat. I just want the right person in there, but I am a patriot, and I love this country, and I love what our forefathers did and bled for. But in saying all that, when you start challenging those things that you want to take away from us, our freedoms, our Constitution, our liberties, whatever it may be, then what else do we have to live for? Think about it.
Well, yeah.
Do you want to live in slavery? Do you want to live in a socialist system? What are you, and I talk, when some of the veterans, we talk about this and all the wars we fought for everybody else on everybody else's soil. And many of them now are actually saying, what am I willing to die for?
Yeah.
I never thought I would get to this point in my life. I lost my buddies overseas, and we just accepted that. But I knew I was always going to come back to a country where I had freedom of speech. I had Second Amendment rights. I had a history of my country, and I had a 4th of July parade and blah, blah, blah. And the LGBTQXYZ wasn't the loudest voice in the room saying that pedophilia should be okay, and all the weird anomalies and all the crap that's going on. I always knew I would come back to my country, but now even in my own country, I have to seriously say, what am I willing to die for? What happens when the military or a quasi law enforcement organization comes to my house and says, you can't have that much food,
Yeah.
or you spoke out against an organization at a rally and you're being arrested, or whatever it may be, or we're giving you, there's charges of insurrection, which, by the way, most of us are still laughing at every time the Democratic Party keeps talking about the insurrection. They haven't seen an insurrection before in their entire life. That wasn't anything near an insurrection,
Yeah.
It's crazy. They're trying to make it into something that it was not, is not, and never will be. It's just, now there were some things done right and there's some things done wrong, but it was not an insurrection.
It's, and that kind of gets to when you walk it all the way out. Just like I don't think the people in charge are stupid. I think they're evil, and then at best case, I think they're arrogant. I don't think they're stupid. It is kind of surprising the more you'll talk to people, and you realize that they have all the same realizations as you. And then you go, well, so, and they go, I don't really give a shit. They're just, for whatever, I mean, God bless it. They're either clinically depressed, they got nothing going, they're 80 and they know they're going to work till the day they die. They're working at Walmart greeting people, or the wife left them, they don't see the kids, and they just look forward to an 8-ball on the weekend, and they're going, yeah, the last thing I really give a shit about is the Constitution. Just like, give me my cheap hooker and give me my Pizza Hut. I think there are probably a lot of people that, I think there's probably a lot of morons that have their head in sand or are willfully not looking at it. I think there's a lot of people that know the plane is going down and they're just like, I'm tired. And then you have the people that know that and go, well, if it's going down, I'm going down too. So, rage against the dying of it. So that kind of seems to be what it is. It's like we're running out the clock. We're playing musical chairs and we're going, all right, what's behind door number 2?
Good
What's behind
analogy.
door number 3 is we're going, which one has, is there a bad guy behind door number 1? No one says anything. Boom, blow through it. There's nothing. Is there a bad guy behind door number 2? Boom. Is there all right. You come out and, or it's the guy comes out and shoots you. It seems like just objectively, just looking at it as a scientist, we're just sort of running all the simulations to an end almost. I'm just thinking like Pentagon wargaming in the middle of Cheyenne Mountain, just like DEF CON, like all the different missiles. It just seems like we're just, you see like the progress bar, like, or seeing all possible outcomes, and it's and then you have war games. Then the only winning move is not to play. That kind of seems what it is. It's almost just like we're seeing what will happen, and then that gets me into like meta. And you and I got into this last time. Well, then I back up into not just like America and not just this century or this millennia or even our species, or we're the third rock around a star, and there's 100 billion stars in the Milky Way, and there's 100 trillion, and then whatever. Yeah, it goes forever. I then start to think, are we here for an exact reason? Is it God running a simulation to see what you got? Is it some sort of training for the next realm, the next dimension realm? Or could it even be, is this God's lesson of saying nothing lasts? Not even your republic. Even your parents get old. Strong mom and dad. Your dad could throw you 50 feet in the pool, and one day you're carrying him upstairs. Even the innocent little kid, and then you find the weed, and he gets the DUI. The friendships that would never end. Next thing you know, it's been 5 years since you talked. It'll never happen. And I lost a brother to suicide. It'll never happen. We'll eventually figure it. And then one day you're sitting there and you're at the funeral and you're going, what? Is this an omniscient father, mother, whatever the hell you want, God, saying nothing lasts? Is it the Republic? Is it the supply chain? Is it global warming? Is it an asteroid? At a certain point, is it saying, what is it? Lay not your treasures where doth and dust corrupt. Don't have your kingdom on earth.
Right.
Don't have your golden palace and emerald gates, because you don't get any of it. There is nowhere to you're the polar bear, and the ice caps are melting. I almost think it's not supposed to be, and this people could very plausibly say, oh, you're just a defeatist pussy and you're not what America's made of. Maybe. But I'm trying to look at it like as zoomed out as I can. Like, really, it's called overclocking a computer. Like, I have a gaming computer where you try to get it run a little faster than I have HVAC pipes pumped into mine. So I literally try to I'm like, come on. I try to get it to overheat and try to push the graphics. I am compelled to okay, I did 55 push-ups today. Like, let's go for 56. I don't care if you're gonna puke. I'm like, let's rev the engine. Like what is not constitution? Is it mankind? Is it good versus evil? What is consciousness? What is the purpose of any of it? The closest I can get, I mean, truly, and I don't think I've even said this on the podcast because I'm a very optimistic, fight to the last breath person. I think it's supposed to all fall apart. And then, what is the quote? Only by exposing ourselves to annihilation again and again can we reach that which is indestructible. And that is the self. That is the I am. That is the be still and know I am God. I mean, is it so much bigger than just Republican, Democrat, Dominion voting, BLM? I mean, is this truly the will of God? Not that you have a crystal ball, not to have an existential.
No, but I will tell you,
if
you look at the origins of our nation, unlike any other nation was founded in the world, the origins are rest at the foot of God.
Yeah.
And so I believe God gave us a gift. It's never what people are saying, it's what they're not saying that matters. And what you're not saying is what you actually already know and believe deeper than the words that just came out of your mouth. And that is this: what we do here echoes in eternity.
Yes.
And it's not what happens, it's what you choose to do with what happens that actually matters. When you leave this earth and you stand before God, what did you do? Whether the republic exists or not,
sure, whether
the nation rises or falls, what did Tommy Carrigan do? That's what matters. Yeah. And as long as you know that you gave your best, you did your part, that's all that you can stand on. You cannot control what God chooses to do or does not do, what the nation ends up. History, we think we do, and this is where we fall short, but we don't, and nor do we try to beat ourselves up if we don't succeed. You just do your very best with what you have. And if you look at every day that you live on this earth, it's actually that way. At the end of the day, did you do 50 push-ups, and are you okay with the 50 push-ups? Did you help the little old lady across the street? Did you stop someone from robbing the gas station? Maybe not. But what did you do during that day so that you can rest well at night? And I am convinced that what we do here echoes in eternity. And so it doesn't matter what's going on around us. It's what we do in the midst of what's going around us that actually matters at the end of the day.
My dad always used to say that when, playing basketball, it didn't matter if we were down 40 points with a minute left in the fourth quarter. He would say, leave it all on the court. I mean, right. Sprint to the vomit, get the last layup. Don't look, it's all coming down. No, you it's just you and the tsunami's coming.
That's right.
And you plant your feet and you go, this wave's a little pussy, bring it. And you put your fists up. Excuse my eloquent vocabulary. But That's what I think it is. And that's, I mean, it kind of, and we got to wrap this one up in like 5 minutes or so, but like it kind of brings me full circle to your association, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what happens when you are at the apex of special forces like yourself? Well, eventually, and that's what we talked about when I was like, how come you're not running for Senate? And you're like, I'm doing more good now recovering trafficked children. That's something where you go, oh, regardless of, am I in 2022 United States or am I in the 1604 Belgium? You're going, I think you said, when a pedophile buries a little girl in the woods, you know that there's good and you know that there's evil. There's no, you go good, evil, kill that, preserve that. I feel like that's manifested in who you are. You that is what you do, is strip it all away. It's not that I'm a Lebanese American or my grandpa had 3 jobs or blah, 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 blah. Good, evil, pain, suffering, predator on the prey, and I'm capable to stop it. Stop it. I think that's what it is. I think God could throw a trillion simulations at you. There's probably a parallel universe where you're a shark and I'm like a fat guppy and we're having a conversation underwater and like humans are the stupid species and stars are made out of apples and whatever. But it's still the same, like, do you think the fish kingdom's going to last? And you're going, it doesn't matter. It's your actions echo through eternity. And I think that's liberating. And it's also so beautifully terrifying because it means you can't slack. It means you can't go, oh, well, I was born into America and we were the good guys. No, 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 no. You die and God goes, all right, he pulls the flag down behind you. You go, no, no, I'm part of the biggest military on earth. And he goes, nope. And then he pulls up the other guy next to you and you're like, but he was part of some uncontacted tribe out in the Pacific. And it doesn't matter. Puts you right up next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Here's this guy in the middle of nowhere who's never spoken English and has never seen a bottle of water. He stopped the old woman from getting robbed in his tribe.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy, you were at the institutions of medical learning, but you let that bad thing slide. Bad, good. I think that's it. I think you're all alone. And much like working out, it's beautiful because no one can take it from you. Do 55 push-ups, you get a little more pectoralis muscle. No one's taxing your muscle. At the same time, you don't do any push-ups and I'm not pointing fingers, Tommy. If you lay in bed and order sesame chicken and don't work out that day, and all of a sudden your love handles feel just a little squishier.
Yeah.
It's nobody's fault but your own. I think
Absolutely.
it's you versus the universe. And I think it's just the audience. If there's one person in the bleachers and it's God.
You were brought into this world by yourself, and you shall leave this world by yourself. And if you're fortunate and you're in the right circumstances, and maybe you have a few warfighter brothers with you if that happens, but everybody's going to stand alone and be accountable. And in the end, with all this evil that we talk about, and and I think that they would laugh at us for having this conversation, but even the Bidens of this world will stand before God and be accountable for the evil things that they have done. And he's very clear about that. And that's not even, I think that's a fact of eternity. I think that's a fact of life. So if it doesn't happen here, trust me, I know the soul lives forever. It'll happen at the next place. So
there's no escaping.
No.
It's when you're like one of 3 kids left in the classroom. Everyone else has finished the test, and it's you and your 2 asshole friends who didn't study. And there's 3 teachers in there watching you guys. And you're like, it's like being in a supermax. You're like, there is no way we can cheat. You're just like, in your mind, you're like, we had this plan, and they're just, you look your head up, and the teacher's right there, and you're like, oh, put your head back. You're not reaching for you're not looking at your hand. A squared plus. You're just sitting there in a cold sweat, going, now I'm being judged. And it's
exactly. So,
and I think so in that time in between A and B, you do the best you can. You leave it all in the court.
Exactly. Sprint to the end, like your dad told you.
Hell yeah.
Just sprint to the end, buddy.
Just
Never
sprint
give
till
up.
you vomit.
That's exactly right. So that's what we all intend to do here.
Baz, you were my therapist. I'll make sure to mail my check to you. I'll pay
Thanks,
for
Tommy.
I'll pay for our session. We've only talked twice, Baz, but I love you, brother. You're a good man. You're a
Thank you,
wonderful
Tommy.
person.
You too, bro.
And I know you got a show that you might be appearing on, and you got to make a phone call. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So
I do.
until next time, thank you so much. I'll put all your stuff in the description. I'll send you the episode when it's up. I look forward to a million more chats with you, my man. God
You too,
bless
Tommy.
everybody.
God bless, buddy.
Thank you so much. Take